So welcome everybody for this book reading session, day 17, A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. The Duck with the Human Mind. In The Power of Now, I mentioned my observation that after two ducks get into a fight, which never lasts long, they will separate and float off in opposite direction. Then each duck will flap its wings vigorously a few times, thus releasing the surplus energy that built up during the fight. After they flap their wings, they float on peacefully as if nothing had ever happened. If the duck had a human mind, it would keep the fight alive by thinking, by story making. This would probably be the duck's story. I don't believe what he just did. He came to within 5 inches of me. He thinks he owns this pond. He has no consideration for my private space. I'll never trust him again. Next time he'll try something else just to annoy me. I'm sure he's plotting something already. But I'm not going to stand for this. I'll teach him a lesson he won't forget. And on, the mind spins its tales, still thinking and talking about it days, months, or years later. As far as the body is concerned, the fight is still continuing, and the energy it generates in response to all those thoughts is emotion, which in turn generates more thinking. This becomes the emotional thinking of the ego. You can see how problematic the duck's life would become if it had a human mind. But this is how most humans live all the time. No situation or event is ever really finished. The mind and the mind made me and my story keep it going. We are a species that at last lost its way. Everything natural, everything flower on tree or tree, and every animal have important lessons to teach us if we would only stop, look, and listen. Our duck's lesson is this: flap your wings, which translate as let go of the story and return to the only place of power, the present moment. So just imagine, two ducks who get onto, in a pond, get close to each other, and they have a small fight about who has to pass or who has to go that direction. And they just turn their directions away. And there and then, they are not in that moment where that occurred. They are in the present now, which is moving in this direction. The only issue with humans is, even if we've got into a fight, we turn the other direction and then our mind starts analyzing, ऐसे कैसे उसने ऐसे कैसे कर दिया, what does he think, मैं इतना वो कर रहा हूँ, कर रही हूँ, whatever, n number of stories. See, at the end of the day, our mind, we need to accept this, that our mind is a meaning making machine. वो उस सिचुएशन के अगेंस्ट इतने मीनिंग्स निकाल सकता है, इतनी परसेप्शन निकाल सकता है, इतनी प्रोबेबिलिटीज निकाल सकता है, इतने कोइंसिडेंसेस निकाल सकता है कि देयर इज नो एंड टू इट. सो इट्स एन एंडलेस मीनिंग मेकिंग मशीन. और इशू ये है कि वो खाली मीनिंग ही बना सकता है. बट as an individual, as the soul, we give those meanings the attention and the energies in order to enhance that experience. इसी एक सिचुएशन में कुछ भी हुआ, what happened. You did not like it, you did not like it. But what happens is that you carry it with you for so long that you don't realize what exactly is the mind trying to do and what exactly are you now doing. See, if I hold my phone See, I'm holding my phone. Okay. How long do you think I can hold it on to? Well, it's what? Less than a kg, 400-500-600 gram ka hoga. So I can hold it on my palm, say for a minute, 5 minutes. But if I have to hold my phone for a day, 15 days, 30 days, 1 year, सोच के ही हाथ में दर्द होना शुरू हो गया. That's exactly what we are doing when we are, whatever the meaning the mind is giving to that particular situation, we are giving it more of our energies through way of our attention to that thought, and actually carrying that very light, feather light thought for, such a big duration of period. So the issue is not what is the meaning that the mind is giving. The issue is that what attention and energy you as an individual, this empowered soul, is giving. And if you're carrying on with that meaning, with that thought, with that burden of that thought, till how long do you want to carry it? Because अगर आप थोड़ी देर उठा रहे हो तो ठीक है, you can handle it. But if you carry it for a long period of time, you are not realizing the pain it is causing. So when the birds flap their wings, it's a very nice lesson. Let go of this story. हम अपने past से अपने present को meaning क्यों दे रहे हैं? That's the whole issue. Past was there. That was then. What were the circumstances? What were the scenarios? I mean, every individual, your entire cells, you have as an individual human body, there are 1 trillion cells which change completely in 3 to 6 months. And that's reality. But हम उस thought को जो 5 साल 10 साल अभी भी पकड़ के बैठे, and the other person would not be affected by it. Hello? You are the one who's carrying that thought. There's a very nice story about 2 monks. So there are 2 monks and they're traveling. They have to go from one village to another village. So one is a senior monk and one is like a junior monk in terms of their experience and till the time, they've joined the monastery with their religious practices. So there is this girl also waiting at that river bank, and she also wants to cross the river. So she asks, I don't know how to swim. Since you both monks are also crossing the river, can you help me by lifting me and taking me across? Because it's very important for me to go. There's my mother who's waiting and she's not well. So the junior monk is like, oh, I'm a monk. I have taken a vow of celibacy. I can't do it. But the senior monk says, okay, it's a genuine issue. I'll carry you. So senior monk picks up that girl, crosses the river and drops her at the bank. And then they move ahead to wherever they were going. Now this junior monk is so disturbed. यार ऐसे कैसे बड़े स्वामी जी ने या whatever the name was, he picked up a girl. It's, as monks, we are not supposed to do that. ये है वो है. So this thought was bothering him extremely for 2 days. He could not sleep. He could not do any of his meditations, religious chant. कुछ नहीं हो रहा था उससे. वो thought फंस गई थी उसके अंदर. So he gathered the courage and went to the senior monk and said, I don't know what you did, but as per me, that was wrong. As monks, we're not supposed to, do certain kind of thing, but you did that. And what I have experienced and what I have been taught, this is not right. And very funnily, the senior monk said, there was a time when I lifted that girl and I probably held her for about 15-20 minutes. But I left her there at the bank. But it's you who has been carrying her since the last 2.5 days. So issue कहाँ पे है? जिसने एक्ट किया उसने तो अपना एक्ट एक ह्यूमैनिटी एक्ट किया कि मैं एम ट्राइंग टू हेल्प, उधर करके खत्म कर दिया. But as the one who's got that thought which gave it a meaning that this my senior did wrong, वो thought को वो पकड़ के बैठा हुआ है. And the senior monk has no idea that this thought is there till the time the guy does not go and confronts and confides in him that this is, it is bothering me for the last 2.5 days. So जो भी मीनिंग आपने उस सिचुएशन को दिया हुआ, आपके माइंड ने दिया हुआ है, that's your story. A lot of times the other person is not even aware of your whatever is your, whatever is the meaning you've given it to the situation. But you are carrying it like a burden. Or this choice is being done consciously, unconsciously by you. And the more you actually carry this burden, the more it is going to trouble you. Because at the end of the day, if you're carrying something on your mind for such a long time, what is going to happen? It's going to create an issue. दर्द होएगी, सब कुछ होगा. You will be fatigued. So be like that duck. Situation, okay. Don't analyze the situation by giving it your judgments, your meanings. Because these judgments or meanings are only your mind's perception, triggered by the egoistic state of mind. उसमें reality नहीं है. और हम उसी को लेके पकड़ के सारा time, we are in that mode where we do not want to let go of that thought. Yes, okay.
So basically, all the conflicts are as a result of the ego only. Any conflict in life is mostly
Mind's perception.
mind's perception. So how do you explain misunderstanding? Like, how do you explain like somebody misunderstood what your thought was? And
Till the time you don't communicate. In this case of two monks, it was a clear cut of miscommunication where the elder monk, took off the girl from his shoulders and put it at the bank and left it there and then. But the
right.
junior monk was carrying it, communication.
Okay.
The only key to resolving any kind of conflicts is communication. Because there are so many things which we have given it a meaning that is as per our understanding, our belief system, our conditioning. That's not the same with the other person. Till the time you do not communicate properly,
Okay.
things will never be resolved. It's like, now I'll give you a few examples in this. मैं
Sure.
ये सोच रहा हूँ कि इसको ना ऐसे करना चाहिए. Because as per me, my understanding, my conditioning, my programming, the way I am, at whatever stage of life I am, this is the most appropriate way. Okay. But the task has to be done by another person. और मैंने अपना एक पॉइंट ऑफ
Right.
व्यू बना लिया कि ये तो इस हिसाब से ही होनी चाहिए थी. Because that is as per my understanding, that is the most appropriate way. But the whole issue, I have not communicated it to the other person. The other person is going to do that same thing the way his or her belief, programming, and conditioning is guiding them, or the way the meaning they are giving it to that situation. Not necessarily they're going to match. But if I communicate properly and I am open, now communication can be what this is how it has to be done, or I believe to the best of my limited knowledge, this could be done this way. In case you have another option, let's see. So the whole concept of any kind of a conflict is not exactly from ego. Ego just raises the trigger. It is miscommunication. तो अगर आपने वो चीज कम्युनिकेट करके उसको जहां पे वो गैप है वो फिल कर दिया तो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट नहीं होगा.
Okay, sure.
Carrying the past. The inability, or rather unwillingness, of the human mind to let go of the past is beautifully illustrated in the story of two Zen monks. Okay, now I know मैं ये कहाँ से example पढ़ रहा था. Wow. Tanzan and Ikido, who were walking along a country road that had become extremely muddy after heavy rains. Near a village, they came upon a young woman who was trying to cross the road, but the mud was so deep it would have ruined the silk kimono she was wearing. Tanzin at once picked her up and carried her to the other side. The monks walked on in silence. 5 hours later, as they were approaching the lodging temple, Ikido couldn't restrain himself any longer. Why did you carry that girl across the road? He asked. We monks are not supposed to do things like that. I put the girl down hours ago, said Tanzan, and you still carrying her. Now imagine what life would be like for someone who lived like Aikido all the time, unable or unwilling to let go of internally of situations, accumulating more and more stuff inside, and you get a sense of what life is like for majority of peoples on our planet. What a heavy burden of past they carry around with them in their minds. The past lies in you as memories, but memories in themselves are not a problem. In fact, it is through memory that we learn from the past and from past mistakes. It is only when memories, that is to say, thoughts about the past, take you over completely that they turn into a burden, turn problematic, and become part of your sense of self. Your personality, which is conditioned by the past, then becomes your prison. Your memories are invested with a sense of self, and your story becomes who you perceive yourself to be. This little me is an illusion that obscures your true identity as timeless and formless presence. Your story, however, consists not only of mental but also of emotional memory. Old emotion that is being revived continuously, as in the case of the monk who carried the burden of his resentment for 5 hours by feeding it with thoughts. Most people carry a large amount of unnecessary baggage, both mental and emotional, throughout their lives. They limit themselves to grievances, regret, hostility, guilt. Their emotional thinking has become their self, and so they hang on to the old emotion because it strengthens their identity. Because of the human tendency to perpetuate old emotion, almost everyone carries in her or his or her energy filled an accumulation of old emotional pain, which I call the pain body. We can, however, stop adding to the pain body that we already have. We can learn to break the habit of accumulating and perpetuating old emotion by flapping our wings, metaphorically speaking, and refrain from mentally dwelling on the past, regardless of whether something happened yesterday or 30 years ago. We can learn not to keep situations or events alive in our minds, but to return our attention continuously to the present, timeless present moment. rather than be caught up in mental movie making. Our very presence then becomes our identity rather than our thoughts and emotions. Nothing ever happened in the past that can prevent you from being present now. If the past cannot prevent you from being present now, what power does it have? So kahin na kahin hum us past ko, we're carrying that burden of the past so much. See, at the end of the day, we need to basically realize that कोई भी experience अगर हमने किया है past में, irrespective of whatever the outcome was, there is a lesson in it. Okay, मैंने गलती की, मुझे समझ आ गया, and then you need to just move on. Rather than holding on to that past कि मैं अगर पिछली बार ऐसे करूंगा. See, the whole issue is you need to remember every choice you make has a consequence. So if that choice was made in the past that had a consequence, if you make the same choice, strong chances it's going to have the same consequence. So in order to change the consequence of what is it that you desire, you need to actually change your choice. And at the end, that choice changing has to be done by you, because you are the one who is viewing the whole situation, and you are the one who is involved in this whole situation from which the entire movie is being seen, because that's for you. But the other person is absolutely good. He will have his own movie. बॉडी एक ही एक मेमोरी होती है, because whatever it experiences over throughout various lifetimes, it stores it. Okay, I mean, it stores it also in the form of, it can be a trauma stored in the body, and slowly that also manifests into a disease. So that is a memory. We can't be so worrisome on carrying that burden of that memory. What is important is not what happened. What is important is not what happened, not what the other person said, not how it landed on you. What matters is what went wrong, what needs to be avoided. That's all. हम इन दोनों चीजों पे तो जाते ही नहीं है. उसने ये किया था, उसने ऐसे किया था, मेरे को इतना बुरा लगा, ये हुआ वो. That's the whole story we end up storing in our body as an experience, and then that's how the body then becomes into a pain body. Every situation, event, circumstance, if has not been the way you wanted it to be, is very important for you to analyze the situation without any judgment, without any story to it. Just be factual. This happened. This is what I need to learn. This is what I need to avoid. This is what I need to change. Rather than क्या हुआ था, उसने क्या कहा था, मेरे को कैसा लगा था, लोग क्या देख रहे थे, लोग क्या सोच रहे थे, what would they have thought. This is all story. And this is where the mind is fantastically amazing at it. And it ropes in the body and turns it into a pain body. कि भैया तू ये मेमोरी याद कर ले, तेरी बॉडी में मैंने स्टोर कर दी है. Whenever this get triggers, you fire. और करना क्या था, एनालाइज करना था, क्या गलत हुआ, क्या चेंज करना है, और आगे को क्या अवॉइड करना है. That's all. Again, when I was talking earlier, whenever you're giving a feedback or whenever you're analyzing the situation, is more important to be factual than subjectual. सब्जेक्ट को नहीं देखना है हमें, उसने क्या किया था, उसने क्या किया था. हमें फैक्ट्स को देखना है, क्या हुआ था. Similarly, when we are giving feedback, we are giving feedback to the act, not to the person. So it's all about factual, not subjectual. The whole issue is we get so subjectual in terms of judging the other person and labeling the other person that we forget exactly what was it that we needed to incorporate in our, what is it that we needed to incorporate in terms of what change we need to do. So do not get to the subjectual things, get to the factual things. Subjectual में तो कुछ भी चलता रहेगा. It's all story, 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 story. There is nothing other than stories in that. But only when it's factual, it's constructive, and then it can lead to a positive feedback for you to improve and grow in that situation, circumstance, or event. Individual and collective. Any negative emotion that is not fully faced and seen for what it is in the moment, it arises, does not completely dissolve. It leaves behind a remnant of pain. Children, in particular, find strong negative emotions too overwhelming to cope with and tend to try not to feel them. In the absence of a fully conscious adult who guides them with love and compassionate understanding into facing the emotion directly, choosing not to feel it is indeed the only option for the child at that time. Unfortunately, that early defense mechanism usually remains in place when the child becomes an adult. The emotion still lives in him or her unrecognized and manifests indirectly. For example, as anxiety, anger, outbursts of violence, a mood, or even as a physical illness. In some cases, it interferes with or sabotages every intimate relationships. Most psychotherapists have met patients who claimed initially to have had a totally happy childhood, and later the opposite turned out to be the case. Those may be the more extreme cases, but nobody can go through childhood without suffering emotional pain. Even if both of your parents were enlightened, you will still find yourself growing up in a largely unconscious world. The remnants of pain left behind by every strong emotion that is not fully faced, accepted, and then let go of, joined together to form an energy field that lives in the very cells of your body. It consists not just of childhood pain, but also painful emotions that were added to it later in adolescence and during your adult life. Much of it created by the voice of the ego. It is the emotional pain that is your unavoidable companion when a false sense of self is the basis of yourself. This energy field of old but still very much alive emotions that lives in almost every human being is the pain body. The pain body, however, is not just individual in nature, it also partakes of the pain suffered by countless humans throughout the history of humanity, which is a history of continuous tribal warfare, of enslavement, pillage, rape, torture, and other forms of violence. This pain still lives in the collective psyche of humanity and is being added on a daily basis. As you can verify when you watch the news tonight or look at the drama in people's relationships, the collective pain body is probably encoded with every human's DNA, although we haven't discovered it there yet. Every newborn who comes into this world already carries an emotional pain body. In some, it is heavier, more dense than in others. Some babies are quite happy most of the time. Others seem to be carry an enormous amount of unhappiness with them. It is true that some babies cry a great deal because they are not given enough love and attention, but others cry for no apparent reason, almost as if they were trying to make everyone around them as unhappy as they are, and often they succeed. They have come into this world with a heavy share of human pain. Other babies may cry frequently because they can sense the emanation of their mothers and fathers' negative emotions, and it causes them pain and also causes their pain body to grow already by absorbing energy from parents' pain bodies. Whatever the case may be, as the baby's physical body grows, so does the pain body. An infant with only a light pain body is not necessarily going to be a spiritually more advanced man or woman than somebody with a dense one. In fact, the opposite is often the case. People with heavy pain bodies usually have a better chance to awaken spiritually than those with a relatively light one, whereas some of them do remain trapped in their heavy pain bodies. Many others reach a point where they cannot live with their unhappiness any longer, and so their motivation to awaken becomes strong. While suffering body of Christ, his face distorted in agony, and his body bleeding from countless wounds. Such a significant image in the collective consciousness of humanity. Millions of people, particularly in medieval times, would not have related to it as deeply as they did if something within themselves, had not resonated with it. If they had not unconsciously recognized it as an outer representation of their own inner reality, the pain body, they were not yet conscious enough to recognize it directly within themselves. But it was the beginning of their becoming aware of it. Christ can be seen as the archetypal human embodying both the pain and the possibility of transcendence. So when you're talking about the collective, so एक है हमारा इंडिविजुअल मेमोरी, हमारा इंडिविजुअल सोल के जो भी मेमोरी बैंक है, और एक है द कलेक्टिव. Now how does the collective influence us? So if I see in my adulthood or in my childhood that one of my siblings or one of my cousins, brothers, sisters, they are being beaten up for, say, not performing well in their exams, for misbehaving with their elders, and and this entire incident happens in front of my eyes, and I'm a witness seeing what is happening. That creates an impression in me, inside my memory bank of the body, which is a part of the collective of this life. Whereas that experience was not me, I was just seeing it. But the impact is so much that वो body एक trauma उसको register कर लेता है. Similarly, अगर हम बात करें in our so many lives back when we are born. So before you take a human life, you already have 8.4 million incarnations on earth. That means you become an insect, animal, stone, tree, all sorts of things. After you complete that cycle of 8.4 million incarnations, if you are of earth origin, you get to be a human. So kahin na kahin itna strong past memory bank, and ours is not a brand new planet. It's thousands of years, 50, 60, 70,000 years purana. It's been going on since so long. So कहीं ना कहीं प्राइमोर्डियल मेमोरीज के जो इश्यूज हैं, या जो उनके लेसन्स हैं, या जो उनके पेन्स हैं, they are their part of the collective system of which we are a part. It's like everybody is connected to a basic network. अब उस नेटवर्क में भी जो इशू हैं वो हर जगह रहेगा ना. For example, we all used to, yes, you can say it, have Tata Skies. a lot of them still do. It's our signal, which is our dish antenna at the top of the terrace or wherever it is, which is catching that signal from the satellite or whatever. But if there is an issue at the satellite, that also impacts what I am viewing as an individual. So that impact on the satellite is that impact on the collective consciousness, which also has an impact on me, the individual, because anything and everything that is coming from the individual is from that collective, is from that satellite. Similarly, when he's trying to say that, when children are born, they have those impressions. And it's very rightly said that children till the age of 1 or 2, I mean, they remember their past lives. And a lot of them are, I mean, there are so many examples that they know that, I was born, this was my previous home, and this was my mother, and relative data to prove that, yes, what he was saying was a reality. So जब को बच्चा born हो रहा है, उसके past life का भी impression है, उसके past life की भी जो collective का है, वो भी impression है. That is why, and see, at the end of the day, everything is energy. So the child, that infant, does have its collective experience, also is picking up the energies from the field of that house or that room where he is. So if there is a constant fight between mother and father, the child will pick it up, because everybody picks up the energies, and these, the infants, they are very good with picking up energies. And they, in the initial stages, they are so clairvoyant that they are able to see a lot of things for which we humans in the adult form are not able to see, because we do not have that clairvoyance that is there in the child during his upbringing. If that continues, then that child becomes out to be a clairvoyant person, but yeah, generally it fades away. It's there for a very particular time. So they will pick up the energy, when that energy is coming from the collective, which is being registered in the individual emotional pain body. So that, that section of trauma emotions is stored actually in our body. Until the time we do not, as an adult now, till the time we do not make a way to let go of that trauma which is stored, at the end of the day, if it's stored in the body, that means it has an address. So address can be any gland, address can be any nerve, address can be any organ, depending on what the trauma is. And that's where, the science of metaphysical anatomy of the psychosomatic cause of all diseases was discovered. And that is actually a reality. और वो होता क्या है, वो एक पेन बॉडी का इमोशन एक्सपीरियंस है जो वहां पर ट्रॉमा बन के फंस गया है. How the pain body renews itself. The pain body is a semi-autonomous energy form that lives within most human beings, an entity made up of emotion. It has its own primitive intelligence, not unlike a cunning animal, and its intelligence is directed primarily at survival. Like all life forms, it periodically needs to feed to take in new energy, and the food it requires to replenish itself consists of energy that is compatible with its own, which is to say, energy that vibrates at a similar frequency. Any emotionally painful experience can be used as food by the pain body. That's what it thrives on: negative thinking as well as drama in relationships. The pain body is an addiction to unhappiness. It may be shocking when you realize for the first time that there is something within you that periodically seeks emotional negativity seeks unhappiness. You need even more awareness to see it in yourself than to recognize it in another person. Once the unhappiness has taken you over, not only do you not want an end to it, but you want to make others just as miserable as you are in order to feed on their negative emotional reactions. In most people, the pain body has a dormant and an active stage. When it is dormant, you can easily forget that you carry a heavy dark cloud or a dormant volcano inside, depending on the energy field of your particular pain body. How long it remains dormant varies from person to person. A few weeks is the most common, but it can be a few days or months. In rare cases, the pain body can lie in hibernation for years before it gets triggered by some event. So it's like, there is a cup, उसमें हम बार बार डाली जाते हैं डाली जाते हैं डाली जाते हैं तो एक बार तो आके वो उबाला मार के वो बाहर मारता है. That's how the pain body actually behaves. तो 10 दिन 15 दिन तो निकल जाएंगे, हाँ बड़े अच्छे, 10 15 दिन तो बड़े अच्छे निकल गए. सडनली पता नहीं यार क्या हुआ था, अच्छा भला चल रहा था यार, पता नहीं क्या हो गया. हुआ ये कि you were just absorbing it, putting it in. There was no went out for that emotion to get out of the cup. And as a result, it was just flowing. And till the time it reached the peak, bam, boom. That's how everything is going. So at the end of the day, we need to have a review mechanism of letting go of these emotions out of our system through various methods. And at the end of the day, how we do it is to raise your own individual vibrational frequency. And that is through meditation, it's through exercise, it's through breath work. And there are so many other options. But till the time we don't do that, they are going to be, durations of good period, and suddenly an outburst is going to come because वो went out नहीं.